Good morning, everyone. I'm Steve the Hurricane. Nice to meet you. That presentation that Dr. Knox-Pipes just gave was phenomenal. Can we please give that up for her one more time? A fantastic read if you're dealing or working with poverty is A Framework for Understanding Poverty. The book is called A Framework for Understanding Poverty. Now I'm a professional trainer, professional educator. I work with business owners, I work with entrepreneurs, and then I train professionals, their staff, their organizations to help them improve healthcare outcomes. But in my field, I'm dealing with a lot of caregivers, and caregivers are living at or below poverty level. And a lot of the things that I'm working with the owners of these businesses is understanding putting middle class expectations on poverty level workers doesn't work. And you have to understand the mindset of the people that you're working with. And when you showed the brains and what happens as a person develops, I can only imagine now as people who are children growing up to, and they get to my, when they're working with me as a professional, I can only imagine the disadvantages there. So that book was just amazing. So again, thank you so much. So everybody, let's just go from this side of the stage to this side over here. Take a minute, introduce yourself. What is your background? What is your audience? Who are you? Who are your students? And what brings you here today?
Hi, I'm back. I didn't get a chance to tell you where I come from. I'm originally from Texas, and I currently live in Michigan, but soon to be in Missouri. My background, I told you I started as a fifth grade classroom teacher, and I always said, once a teacher, always a teacher. Even though I became an administrator and I had this great opportunity to create wonderful things with technology because I was curious. One of the first things about me is I'm curious, so I wanted to know why and how things worked. And I was working in the Department of Defense schools in Germany when computers came out. There was no software, there was nothing, but there were these boxes in the basement. And in the basement, then my kids said, Miss Knox, there's these coffins, these dead people, and I'm in this old building. And I thought, okay, let's go on a journey. Yeah, let's go, seek and find. Found these boxes nobody wanted, opened them, took them up to my room. I found out that they were computers. Nobody knew how to use them, but I said, okay. So we brought them in, and I said, kids will teach me how to do this. And that was how I launched into instructional technology, because I could see how curious they were. And so as a result of that, I came back, got my graduate degree from Lesley College, which was the first and only, at the time, program in instructional technology, and from there I ended up in Michigan, and then things just started happening and opportunities opened up to build what I was able to connect people. My whole point is connections. Like I've said, I've taught everywhere, but once a teacher, always a teacher. That's why today you are my students, and I love doing that. It's my passion to make a difference and hopefully make a connection.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. There we are. My name is Mike Baehr. I actually have a very diverse background. Most of you are all teachers. I probably came from where you talked about the poverty level. My family, my mom, my dad both worked in restaurant businesses. And from there, I decided, hey, I'm not right for college. And I wasn't right for college because I didn't have the discipline to do that. So what I did is I ended up joining the Marine Corps. I served 23 years in the Marine Corps. And during that time, I gathered the discipline and ended up with a bachelor's in accounting and a master's in forensic accounting. And then lo and behold, like your slide of Richard Branson, as I was retiring, I was gonna be a forensic accountant. That was my passion. I wanted to do it. I wanted to help. Then somebody showed me this book on day trading and said, why don't you come work for me? And why don't you educate people on financials? You understand it. You're an educator. You talk well. You speak well to people. They gather you. So that's where I ended up. And now, me and that individual, we partnered together and we started P Capital Trading, where we look to reach out to everybody from teenagers all the way to people that are retired that want to learn about the stock market and take their own financial situation into their own hands. So we teach in this perfect discussion about online We have students in Hong Kong, Singapore, Europe, South America, the Caribbean, and the U.S. So diverse all the way around, and we do it through technology, and that is the only reason we're able to.
I love it.
Hi, good morning. I'm from the Philippines, and I'm Tata Medado. I have been an administrator for 30 years. It looks my hair. I have also been the president of our institution for the last 6 years. So I've been very fortunate for my predecessors to have trusted me. And the owner of the school is something that will tell you about our school. It's owned by IBM Philippines and SM conglomerate. SM is a big conglomerate in the Philippines. And at the time in the 90s, both institutions already thought about digital transformation. The reason for being of the school was to develop the new talent that will emerge in this transformation. And so here I am. I am not in technology. I am in educational management. And on the side, I would involve myself in projects such as alternative learning systems, all of which defines the role of technology, be it for college students or those who have not been served by education as well. So we use a lot of technology. We meant to, we were created to, but at the same time, we produce the people who will create technology in the future.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Justin Starr. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I am an educator. I'm a professor at our local community college. And I'm lucky. My title is Endowed Professor of Advanced Technology. Advanced technology means you can kind of do whatever you want, which is a lot of fun. But my background is I was not always in education. I finished grad school. I didn't want anything to do with education. I wanted to get out of the lab. I was so sick of it. So I ran a robotics company in Pittsburgh for a few years. And one of our biggest struggles was, Pittsburgh's great. We have Carnegie Mellon. You can get a bunch of literal rocket scientists easily, roboticists everywhere, but we couldn't get technicians. We couldn't get people to actually sit down and build robots or fix robots and solder boards together. And it was a struggle. We had to import talent from states like Texas. I was just nothing against Texas, but we want to give jobs in our own backyard. So when we sold the robotics company, I kind of was lucky in that we could do whatever we wanted, and I initially went to the community college to teach and wait out a non-compete. And I thought, this would be a great place. We could build technician training programs to feed the robotics industry. But long after my non-compete expired, I'm still there because I think one of the biggest things that we can do to improve social mobility is take things like advanced technology and push it at the technician level, right? Students might not come to us at a community college knowing they're going to go to school. They might want a one-year certificate program that lets them get into something like HVAC. And now's the time to actually start integrating things like data science and artificial intelligence into those programs, because today's students, when they get a job, they're working right alongside ChatGPT. And if we want them to stay relevant, it's on us to start incorporating that now. It's really tough to do as a public institution to move quickly, but that's what gets me going. That's why I'm here. So looking forward to a good panel discussion.
Thank you.
Wonderful. My name is Jack. Blessed to be here. Sorry for my voice. I was out doing some teaching in Haiti last week, and I'm on my fumes here, but super touched even with the kickoff of this conference, especially that diversity panel, and really hearing the passion for education. I have 2 young daughters and a 3rd boy on the way in November. Shout out to my wife for making me available to be here, but just to hear so many educators so passionate about the students and the kids gives me a lot of hope. And at the end of the day, I'm a storyteller, and I run a leadership development firm focused on story, so I'll keep it brief. But one of the best but worst things my mom ever did in the theme of education was enroll me in the speech and debate team in high school. Taught me a lot, but then, of course, I brought those skills back home that she had to deal with, and then that led to some time in tech and ultimately starting my business because at the end of the day, was tired of training and coaching opportunities where people show up, maybe teams or teachers, feel good for a day or two, a shot in the arm, but then back to old behaviors, back to old habits. And so our firm is really around that long-term sustainable growth, sustainable empowerment and development. And at the end of the day, I'm just excited to be up here and hear how the discussion unfolds.
Love it. And last but not least.
Yeah, hi, Timothy Smith, and I'm also from BT, before technology. I've been a charter school educator for 27 years, but I'm excited about coming to work every day because of the work we do with our young people. And so certainly poverty has played a role in the students that have come to our schools. But to me, it's more about serving a need of a population of students that are not being recognized, that are just kind of being falling through the cracks, you know. And certainly public schools do a great job in terms of a lot of the kids in a comprehensive high school setting, but there's so many students who just get lost in the shuffle. And so our schools are in a small classroom environment. We offer blended and online learning. But the most important thing that we offer is that personalized connection, that student success coach who's there for the student. We have our teachers, but we also have a coach who's there to help them with their social emotional needs, to help make sure that they've got a figure out for their next big step, whether that's going to be in college, whether it's going to be a career, whether it's going to be the military, whatever it needs to be. We want to help them be successful. So every student that comes to our door, we have a personalized plan for that student, and we want to help them. And so we're doing that in Arizona and California, and we're hoping to open a new center actually here in Las Vegas, Nevada. So we're very excited about offering more opportunities for our youth, and technology, we believe, is the way to accomplish that, because we can help them through mastery-based learning to be able to accomplish their goals. And so with that, I'll stop.
I love it. And as everybody said before, I'm Steve the Hurricane, and I own Hurricane Marketing Enterprises. My clients are entrepreneurs, healthcare business owners, and the staff and the people who work for them. And so the reason why I'm up here on the stage with my esteemed colleagues here is because since 2012, I've been teaching people digitally how to be able to improve outcomes of patients and taking care of the lives of the seniors that entrust our clients with their care. So that's what brings me here. And so this is a Q&A session. So if there's any questions that any of you have during this session, there's a microphone stand right here. Feel free to come on up and ask the panel. But while we're getting started here, one of the things that I find that's very interesting being a digital educator or a digital leader is making sure that we have the right technology, the right platform for people to use. So panel, what are the platforms that we are using, and what has our experience been with using those platforms?
Well, some of the platforms that we've used in education, we started with Moodle, Blackboard in the K-12 environment. Free was not free, with Moodle, so people have to understand that. You pay for what you get. But at the university level, we're working with Canvas. And I think the whole notion is, it doesn't make a difference which one it is, it's a learning management system. And it's teaching people how to digitally collect and manage all the things that they've had in notebooks for all this time. We also used, at one point when I was assistant superintendent, we put school boards. We wanted to put the school board members on technology, and so we gave them laptops, and they said, well, how am I going to live without my big packet? Have you ever been to a school board meeting? They all have these big packets of paper that they never read. So we figured, well, instead of doing that, we'd put them on Blackboard. And so we created a learning management system. We're able to bring them along at a time that they never thought they could, but so that they could not only read the material digitally, but also connect with each other. So I found that when the whole notion of learning management systems, and again, they've improved over time, is to make the connection and humanize what they've been doing, but also give them more time to do other things.
I love it. Anyone else?
Well, I mean, we use a variety of platforms at our schools, and it looks like at every time our teachers and staff, they look at them and they have to make modifications. A lot of times they're geared toward a semester or a year-long plan, and our students come in for 6-week classes, and so they want to get there where they're making some learning gains and chunking their learning. And so a lot of times whatever platform it is, we make those modifications so that they can make that connection with their coach and their teacher and make that continued progress and engagement that they need to have. And so if they're not interested in whatever that lesson is or that module, we need to make that change so that they can keep that engagement level going. So regardless of whatever that platform is, the engagement level is what we're checking with them on each day, and our students and success coaches are monitoring their progress and making sure that they're having that success with their plan and reaching their goal.
I love what you said there about the engagement. We're going to come back to that in a second, but real quick, too, anybody else with the platform they want to share?
So, because the way we operate isn't necessarily in a university or in a kind of basic normal education format, we use the basic simple Google Meet program. And we also use LearnDash, which is kind of a modification of Blackboard. But the important thing that I have found is that through even my own experiences using Blackboard through my college, is you can very quickly get disengaged in just looking at Blackboard and PowerPoints and do it yourself in your own pace. But when you interject actual meetings, Google Meet, and make them use the camera, not shut the camera off, you get the engagement and you get better performance out of the students you're talking with. And you get more engagement and more interaction with them. And it not only helps them, but it helps you as an educator, especially in technology. Because when you're just looking at a computer screen and you're trying to gauge reaction to how you're talking, like here it's easy, I can see you. But if you're on a computer screen, it's very, very difficult. So you have to really do it. And I would encourage everybody, if you're in that technology realm, to find some program, whether it's Zoom, Google Meet, or any of the other variations where you require face-to-face interaction, because students are striving for that.
I love it. Anyone else?
When we started thinking about, of course, we started thinking in the 90s about a purely technology-enabled school, it has been in our minds that it's just not a matter of learning management system. So, in effect, we've reconstructed or recreated the entire school in the cloud. All the resources are there in the cloud, tools, references, books, that allows us to actually run a high-flex classroom all the time. High-flex is not a hybrid thing. It is really more like the choice of the students to come to school or not. We are able to control that because all the resources are in the cloud. Our learning management system is industry. It's a reflection of what the industry is doing. So we're looking at, we have been, for the last 10 years, we have been on Microsoft 365 as well as Microsoft Dynamics, which includes also the administrative processes of the school. So internally, it's not just really about the learning management system, as I said, it's really recreating the school in another space. Right now, when the students are asked, where is Asia Pacific College, the school where I work, they're gonna tell you, it's in the cloud. Thank you.
We're not so lucky, right? Our school's in Pittsburgh. We're definitely not at that level of cloud native, which is, it's nice to aspire to. So it's really cool to hear what these panelists are doing. So I appreciate that. Just two things that, we've kind of found is, I think when COVID started, I was all like, let's make this face-to-face, let's go on Zoom, let's get cameras. Community college, we have some particular diversity, equity, and inclusion concerns, and I know when I started doing classes on, we just got thrown into it, so you figure it out while you go along. But we'd all have our cameras on, and then, one student had their camera on, and we could see them in their car, right? And another student made a joke, just make sure you pull over, ha, ha, ha. Real funny. And so later you find out that student was living in their car, right? So you just have to kind of think there are some real concerns with visibility that sometimes when you work with disadvantaged groups or people, you make assumptions. I did as an educator that things wouldn't make people uncomfortable, and I kind of learned some lessons the hard way. So I just encourage you, think about things like that. There's always sort of those unexpected findings that you encounter with things that I don't give a second thought to, like cameras on. But the other thing for LMS, we went through an interesting journey in Pittsburgh. We've always used Blackboard. Blackboard made it super hard to do things like merge credit and non-credit instruction, just real difficult. We found a local company that was able to roll their own SCORM-compliant LMS for us. Shameless plug, their Turbine Workforce. It's like two guys who are just coding the heck out of their evenings in their garage, and they've already made us something that's so much more responsive to our student needs. It lets us open source materials, work with other institutions. Just think outside the box. Sometimes you think, I got to choose between Blackboard or Canvas. Sometimes there's talented devs who can make you something that works really well. That's what we found.
I love what you said right there with you never know what the other person is going through. I know many of my students are entrepreneurs, and sometimes they'll be listening while they're driving, and then they'll try to interact with me, and I'll tell them, please, I'd rather you miss the class. I'd rather you get the recording of the class later than me hear a car accident and something happens to you because you were driving. Like it's okay. Get to your destination, So I love what you brought up there. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, just real quick, similar platforms, and at the same time, from a measurement standpoint, because I think we need to be honest with the power of technology. It's a tool, but not necessarily a replacement. So yes, it can help scale, and we've seen it help scale our business from online courses to meets when we're doing trainings in China virtually. But from a testing standpoint and really measurement, we always do pre- and post-training assessments with any participants going through. And we've seen a 5 to 7% delta as far as improvement ratings with our trainings that are done virtually versus in person. So it's not a knock on virtual trainings, especially if that's your niche and your go-to, keep doing it. But don't underestimate the power of staying in person. We've been blessed now being back in offices. I worked with Fortune 50 tech companies. They've opened their doors. And don't let that replace, especially for educators, the power of being back in person, because we've seen from a data standpoint, virtual is not as powerful as in person. If you're a virtual business, keep going, but also don't let that replace that in-person, that physical connection, because data-based, it does show when we're together in the room, just as we are right now, it's a different experience. So yes to digital, yes to these tools, but make sure that we're still valuing the in-person dynamic, especially for children, because I will not send my kids through a purely virtual world.
And just on top of that, right? If you ask students, they all say they want asynchronous online, right? They all want to take classes from bed. Like, their demand would say that. But then you look at the outcomes, and it's not as strong. So I just want to echo that. Sometimes you're building something, you do focus groups, and they're all like, yeah, we want online learning. But when you look at outcomes, I think we have a lot of work to do to make that as good as in person. So that's, yeah.
Get out of bed. Get out of bed.
What I love about being moderator is I get to go last and echo everything that they just said, right? Because it's so true. In my business, the model that I have where I work with my clients, there's modular courses. And the software, the platform that we use is Kajabi, which a lot of people are familiar with. So I've filmed certain courses. I actually created what I call the Hurricane University, and there's 4 different courses. Each course is about a semester, so it takes you about a year to complete it, so on and so forth. The videos they watch is one part of the lesson. Then I use GoToWebinar, which is an old technology. The reason why I like using an older technology versus a new one is because of the challenge that our users, our students have using the technology. So I'm a big believer in the second mouse is what gets the cheese, right? Let the first person go out there, let the early adopters go out there, use the new technology, make sure it works well, then I'll pick it up and I'll adopt it. But when I use GoToWebinar, so many people are familiar with using it, it makes it very easy. To the point about these using the Zoom, because when the pandemic first happened, everyone was using Zoom and using those videos back and forth. It was good initially, but I quickly got rid of it, and I went back to using my GoToWebinar because I could keep everyone's cameras off and keep mine, and we're going to use it. We're going to switch our focus here. How do we keep our students engaged when we're going live? But then as we're all educators here, we know that people learn audio, they learn visual, and they learn tactile, right? So I have good old-fashioned workbooks that go with all of my courses, that go with all of the live classes, so people can watch the lessons on their own, participate in the live classes with me, fill out things in their workbook, and we do a pre-course evaluation, and then we do a final exam at the end. And the knowledge growth that my clients have is staggering, and I track it by the number of patients they're able to serve, the outcomes of the patients that they're taking care of, and the revenue that was generated and the increase in profits, which allows these businesses to be able to scale and take care of more people. So it's very interesting hearing everything you're saying and then bringing it all together. So now our next question that we're going to do is, how do we keep our students engaged? Because when we're dealing with students who, I'm like you, Mike, my clients are all over the world. So I have clients in Australia, I have clients in Europe, I have clients here in the United States, Canada, everywhere. So how do we keep them engaged? And so this time I'll go first, right? And so the way I keep my students engaged is I know that people have a very short attention span, right? I think it's something like 8 seconds. I think a goldfish beats the human race as far as attention spans go, right? So because of that, I try to keep my students engaged by, sometimes I have my webcam on, and that's the only thing, and I'm speaking and engaging with them. Then I'll flip to a specific slide, or I'll pull up a specific diagram or a specific chart, and I'll turn myself off, but I'll continue to speak about it. Every once in a while, I have questions that come up in the chat box, and I'll bring the person who's asking the question on live with us with their webcam, so now they can ask it to the entire group, and then we keep that engagement going. I throw a lot of jokes in there, and the jokes definitely keep it fresh so that people are engaged. And it's almost like becoming, instead of just being an educator or a presenter, it's becoming a presentainer where my students are engaged, they're learning, and they're having fun at the same time. And at the end, they're like, I can't wait for the next class. This is amazing. This is so inspiring. This is so informative. I can't wait to execute this in my business or take care of my patient in a certain way. So that's just a little bit of my insights in keeping my students engaged digitally.
I could start. Yes. Yeah, being an administrator, I do have a different perspective of how it is that I can still preserve the tenets of education. And therefore, when pandemic happened, and even before the pandemic, we've already been thinking that changes has to happen in the way we teach, in the way students learn. But there are things that doesn't change. And I can think of 3 things right now. One is, a while ago I was talking to somebody about empathy. And when we choose a technology that we wanted to use for school, it needs to have that element. It needs to express empathy to students, which means personalization, which means the teachers being able to connect with the student at any point in time when necessary. The next would be, after empathy, one of the bigger hurdles that we have is progress, to make sure that we see the progress. And technology makes that happen. It's as though before, we miss out on the students we really need to teach, we really need to attend to, but technology creates that line with us to be able to see everyone at any pace that they are in and to actually lead them to progress. It's possible now, personalization again. Even AI, for instance, well, this automates exactly the way we would like to see our students, where they're at, where their progress is. The technology speaks to us about it. It reports to us to say that somebody needs help. Somebody right there is performing too well, that his certifications, his industry certifications are topping the charts. So we get to know all of these things because the technology we use speaks to us about their progress, individualized progress. And thirdly, I believe this is very important, very fundamental. We celebrate, okay? We celebrate success. But because of technology, we don't celebrate during graduation. We don't celebrate after the term. We don't just celebrate, but we can celebrate every day. And that's what's important, to keep the students really interested in what they do, and for us to be interested in them, and for us to show them our interest in them. So if technology does all those 3, then we're into it.
That was so powerful, what you just said. I love every aspect of it. And that last part with sharing the success of your students. So I think about many times, I may teach lesson 4 of Fast Start, something like that. And then when I go to lesson 5, somebody who did what I taught in lesson 4 had a very big win for them in their organization, or they're the employee and they went and executed it, and then it made a huge impact in the ability to get their work done much more efficiently. And so then I would bring that person on live and I would say, share with the class what happened. I would let them know ahead of time because they would write me an email usually. And that social proof that seeing is believing, that, wow, someone else just did this. Here I am, I'm in New Jersey, this person's in California, this person is in Alberta, Canada, or wherever, and they learned the same thing that I learned, they executed, look at what happened. It almost gets a natural, healthy competition going, but also keeps them engaged so that they want to continue to go out and improve. I love that. I saw some other hands go up on this.
I use something very simple with my students online, because my big thing is you want to keep the human part of it. You don't want the technology to get in the way of the connections. And a very simple thing that I do at the very beginning of class is I have them all text me. And the reason I have them text me is because they're texting all the time. So when they know that they can text their professor, and then I know it's them, we've made an immediate connection. The other thing is that I use when we meet online is we immediately go to breakout rooms, because then in the smaller group, it's not just one big group, it's breaking it down so then they get to make friends. I tell them that they have to make, that I encourage them to find a buddy, a study buddy. It's the old-fashioned way. You're better together than you are by yourself. And it's almost like giving them permission that they can work with somebody else. So very simple things, use the technology to allow them to do things that are impacting as a human, which is connecting using simple tools like texting and breakout systems.
I love it. Anybody else? Yes.
I think that's it. I think it's part meeting them where they are, right? Like I have this pride that I want to do things my way because I'm a good teacher, but I only do what's worked in the past, right? Like when I started teaching, 50-minute lectures were it. Well, during Zoom pandemic, I had to listen to some of my 50-minute lectures. Oh my God, I just couldn't do it. I'm sitting there listening to myself talk thinking, this is awful. And when students are saying they want more bite-sized, digestible content, we're all like, yeah, Gen Z. But I just encourage you to really put yourselves in their shoes, try eating your own dog food sometimes. Now I make things bite-sized so they can listen to it on a bus ride. But it was humbling. I had to listen to myself and go through a little bit of pain to get there.
I love that tip right there. It's something that I'll share with the group based on that right there. I have a multi-screen setup. So I have my laptop here, I have another screen over here, and then I have a 55-inch television on the opposite side of the office at my business. And I put myself on the television right opposite. So the camera's right here, and I have to look through the camera to the television to see myself speak the entire time. Number one, it allows me to keep eye contact with my students, because it's very difficult when you're looking at a camera, you're trying to look at this, but you're trying to look at the students. So keeping the eye contact really helps. So by having yourself in your vision through where the camera is makes a huge, huge difference. Get rid of the one that's on your laptop, get an external one that you can place somewhere in your line of sight, so this way it looks like you're looking at the camera. That was the first thing I took from that. And then second, I can see what my students are seeing, and so I use a lot of voice inflection, I use a lot of pauses, I break and I take a sip of water, right? These are professional speaking things, but these are things that make a difference when you're engaging with your students. And it's not a boring, dull lecture that they are only here because they're paying for it. This is the classes I didn't want to take. No, it's something that they enjoy, they look forward to, they're engaged, they want to move forward. I saw something at the end on an ad. Go ahead.
Okay. Rule of 3. Smallest number of data points that our brain can detect as a pattern. So when we have an audience, as we have with you, the more we grow beyond that with key points, we're actually hurting our audience's attention span. So my suggestion is always rule of three. So I'll give three key things for engagement. One is relatable curriculum. I mentioned I was in Haiti last week. We do a youth camp, 12 to 16-year-olds, primarily focused on soccer. We're also teaching them about the good news of Jesus. And so when I'm talking to them about soccer, I try and make it relatable around how, for example, we're on the team, we're off the team, there's one way on the team, just referencing what is in my audience's mind in the youth, so relatable curriculum. The other, open-ended questions. Don't ever say, let me know if you have questions. When's the last somebody asked a question when you said, let me know if you have questions? Ask them, how does this land with you? I love how Beverly brought it up, of what is coming up from you as far as reflections, and then you have to be okay with awkward silence. Give people a chance to participate, and then it spreads like wildfire, and people start chiming in, and the whole audience is much more engaged. And then the last third point, terseness. Saying less with more impact. It's the economy of words. If you're saying more, that does not make it better for their attention. So I will stop right now by saying terseness.
I love it. We're wrapping up here, so we'll do this, and then we'll do one quick tip and call it a panel.
Well, just a few more
Okay.
things on engagement, just to echo what everyone else was saying. Certainly we need our students to stay engaged, and our student success coaches are the ones who are able to do that. They're able to stay with them. We learned from the pandemic that being 100% online, it doesn't work for everyone. So that's why we have these resource centers where the students can come in and connect with their teachers and their student success coaches. But we have mini lessons just so that they can have an additional choice. Certainly our courses are designed to state standards, and that's from a canned curriculum, and so we try to modify it to make it interesting. But these mini lessons certainly are small group sessions for students to stay engaged and they can connect with their coach, and then they can also be more actively involved in their learning, and getting together, working on collaborative assignments, and being more in control and be able to choose what they're doing is certainly helpful for our young people. And so we definitely encourage them to stay engaged and to take control of the learning as much as we can.
Excellent. Well, everyone, thank you so much. We're out of time, so we hope you got a lot out of this, and definitely feel free to see us. We're going to have lunch soon. Feel free to interact with us if you have any questions about leading students online, keeping them engaged. What are some of the latest and greatest? We're here to serve. Keep doing a great job, everybody. Thank you, and God bless.